Wow, George Negus. Next time I appear in Waverley Court, will you come and be a character witness for me, please? That's got to carry some weight, right? Oh, look, you know what? You know, in rock and roll, we procrastinate a lot, and I said, I was saying to these guys, so I'm going to have a speech. No speech, no speech. And then I haven't got a speech. I could have had a speech going on the thing down there like Chuggy did. I haven't got a speech. The truth is, as I was sitting here, I realised something I've always thought. I think of people in Australia. I felt sorry for people in England. When I first met Marty, he didn't know about all the amazing music we had in Australia. And I spent all this time, we were playing him The Real Thing and The Master's Apprentices. And I grew up in Canberra. And to me, Australian music, there was no question about whether it was as good as the other stuff. It was. There was the American stuff, there was the English stuff, and there was the Australian stuff. And the first thing I ever saw was a package tour with Normie Rowe and the Easy Beats and MPD Limited and Bobby and Laurie. You know, they did the song, When I Hear a Love Call, and everybody was stamping on the floor, and it was amazing. And then all the bands that came up, bands we don't think of a lot now, like the Dave Miller Set. Do you remember that song? Do you remember that song? He's got his love to keep him warm. It was amazing stuff. People overseas never got to hear it. Peter and I went and saw Hush at the Canberra Theatre. We thought they were amazing. When Les got to this, we were going, wow, this is great, get rocked. Then we did a gig and we turned up and Skyhooks were playing. I couldn't believe how amazing Skyhooks were, not just because they were funny and stuff, but this kind of the dual guitar thing they had going on. Years later, the church were supporting the Sunny Boys at a festival. We decided to be late because we weren't going on before the Sunny Boys. And we were standing there and we'd had explained it quite adequately why we were legitimately late. And Red Simons came in and said, I know you meant to do it. It's all part of the game. You were meant to be late. You didn't want to go on before them. And he kind of reopened the whole thing up again. It was an accident. It was great to be busted by Red Simons. So many amazing Australian bands. The people we have been inducted with, I almost said induced. The people we have been inducted with tonight are amazing. The Models, an amazing band. I read a review of myself that said I was weird and angular. I went and saw the Models play, and when I saw Sean Kelly, I felt like Doug Parkinson. He was so much weirder and more angular than me. Okay, the Loved Ones. I agree with Chuggy. The Loved Ones insinuated so much raw, dirty sexuality, much more than Mick Jagger, much more than anyone else. When you heard them, you knew, even though I was 12, I knew there was something very rude going on in the world of the adults. And amazing the way he sang. It was just like that to authority, but not with the sort of blatant stuff you have nowadays of axing school teachers and strippers. It was just implied, and that's why it was so much better. John Williamson, look, I don't know a real lot about country, but I've had 5 daughters, and all of them at some stage I've amused with that, you silly galah. I'm better by far than a white cockatoo or a budgeriggar. They squeak and squawk and try and talk. Why, me and them's like cheese and chalk. Poetry, man. Johnny Young, I remember I used to do an imitation of you at school. Carolyn, used to clap with your hands were straight out when you clap. Where is he? You did, didn't you? The Real Thing was #1 for about 16 weeks. It was #1. It didn't go away, and it was just like omnipresent. And I hadn't had any LSD by that stage, but I knew what it was going to be like when I finally had it. Amazing. And a wonderful irony that you're Mr. Clean, and you wrote these songs. He wasn't Mr. Clean. We had some amazing adventures in the old days with Chuggy. Back in 1981, Chuggy was our manager. He was fantastic.
Try it on. Try it on.
Chuggy, we had some amazing adventures. I remember the night you signed us up, I was sitting there and I was scared to say no. And your henchman, instead of putting a cigar in my mouth, he put a joint in my mouth. And I sat there and he lit it. He said, "So that's it then?" And I was like, "Yes." And then in 1981, Chuggy organised our first tour of Tasmania, and aviation was a little different in those days. And it was an old World War II, sorry Chuggy. It was an old World War II aeroplane. And the gear, and in those days bands carried these colossal PAs with them. It was all strapped down one side and the band was down the other side. And when we took off, the door opened. And we're looking at Melbourne through an open door and the gear broke free and was running around. I had a 4-way bin rolling towards me. And Chuggy, you know what you said? You said, "Michael Chugg killed in airplane crash. The church were there too." No, I bet you don't. I should have some poignant memory for each and all of you, like sailing in yachts in the Mediterranean with Michael Gudinski and stuff like that. But my mother's here, so all of those anecdotes are no longer applicable. Anyway, look, I like to thank. We've been kicked off all the best record companies in Australia. We've been kicked off all the best publishing companies. And look, this is a great honour, and I hope our foot is still in and out of the what is it? What do we in and out of the grave? And thank you very much for this great honour. I know some of my friends here want to thank some people, so thank you very much.
Okay, sorry. There's 3 big thank yous for me, for all of us. Champion number 1, Mr. Joe Segrito for us. Champion number 2, not in any order, is our American friend and patron, Mr. Kevin Keller, who none of you will know, who has made the whole last 12 years totally feasible on every level and continues to be involved with us, which is fantastic. And of course, the biggest champion who's not here tonight is the guy whose massive shoes I jumped into, which is Mr. Richard Ploog.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Chris Gilby for discovering us and helping a lot of other bands.
Us.
I did say that.
We were off the coast, and he sort of was.
He'd appreciate that. Thank you very much.
We've worked so hard to be aloof and enigmatic.
Aloof no more.
All ruined in 15 minutes after 30 years. I'd just like to thank all the same people that these guys have. But we were dropped and kicked off so many labels that we had to form our own. But
and we still won't pay ourselves any fucking royalties.
Still don't get paid. Thanks very much. It's pretty strange for me because I'm from Liverpool.
You're lucky.
Thank you.
One more person. I'd like to thank God for giving us so much unbearable talent.
Give that man his own show.